As a manufacturer of hydroxychloroquine, we donated 2 million dosages of the product for clinical trials to evaluate the effectiveness of hydroxychloroquine in treating COVID-19. Most importantly, when other countries came to us, we prioritized Canadian patients to ensure we had enough product to cover those who needed the drug for other indications such as rheumatoid arthritis and lupus.
Given that your company...
Point of order, Mr. Chair. And I don't know who takes the point of order because you're asking questions as chair. You should have handed the chair over.
It's not a point of order.
No.
What standing order are you referring to?
What
standing order are you referring to?
Relevance, sir. You're asking questions that have nothing to do with pharmaceutical sovereignty. So I'd ask someone other than yourself to rule on the point of order and to bring your questions in line with the point of this study.
Noted.
You can't rule on it as chair.
You're out of order. Yes, I can.
This guy's garage. Like and subscribe.
Mr. Watson, I have a copy here of the public settlement agreement from opioid litigation in the United States involving Apotex Corp. It's it right here. According to the settlement, Apotex agreed to pay over $72 million to resolve opioid-related claims brought by the U.S. states. And so, just so we're clear with the committee, Apotex Corp referenced in this settlement is part of the same Apotex corporate group that you are representing today. Is that correct?
Yes, it's a U.S. subsidiary.
That is correct.
That's correct.
And Mr. Watson, I also have here the original lawsuit filed by the province of British Columbia against opioid manufacturers seeking to recover health care costs related to the opioid crisis. In this lawsuit, Apotex is listed as a defendant. That is the same Apotex that you are representing today. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Mr. Watson, Apotex manufactures opioid medications, including hydromorphone, correct?
Correct.
Are you aware that hydromorphone is one of the most prescribed drugs in the safe supply programs across Canada? Yes or no?
I'm aware it's a well prescribed product. To indicate whether it's the most prescribed, I wouldn't know.
You don't know?
I would know that it is a actively prescribed product.
Those programs are designed to address addiction. Given that your company...
Point of order, Mr. Chair. And I don't know who takes the point of order because you're asking questions as chair. You should have handed the chair over.
It's not a point of order.
No.
What standing order are you referring to?
What
standing order are you referring to?
Relevance, sir. You're asking questions that have nothing to do with pharmaceutical sovereignty. So I'd ask someone other than yourself to rule on the point of order and to bring your questions in line with the point of this study.
Duly noted.
You can't rule on it as chair.
You're out of order. Yes, I can. Those programs are designed to address addiction. Given that your company manufactures this drug, does Apotex have any scientific evidence showing that hydromorphone is an effective treatment for addiction?
I'm not in a position to speak to that, and Mr. Vice Chair, I'd be happy to take any questions from the committee and respond back to your question.
Yeah, that'd be great. If you could table those documents, that'd be very helpful. Dr. Summers, it is my understanding that Mark Tyndall served as Deputy Public Health Officer under the provincial BC government until 2018. Is that correct?
Sounds about right to the best of my knowledge, yes.
After leaving the government, Mark Tyndall launched a vending machine company called MySafe, which dispensed opioids to drug users. What can you tell us about this vending machine company?
Well, I can confirm that I've seen the machines in action, and at the time that they were being developed at sort of the concept stage, I suggested that there were much more effective priorities, and in fact, that taking the step of responding to people who are living in poverty. So it's important to note that these machines were installed in what are referred to as low barrier housing developments. And from prior research, one of the things that was most urgently needed among people who were socially estranged, including those in low barrier housing, was the opportunity to be engaged in meaningful relationships and on a path to social reintegration, which, by the way, is something that harm reduction interventions are capable of initiating. I thought that it was exactly the wrong type of message to take as we were in the first year of a declared public health emergency, to be rather than engaging alienated people interpersonally, that we would instead be pouring our energies and attentions into an interface that involved a machine. But that, my view, was fairly forcefully outvoted by people in positions of authority.
Yeah, and I have some follow-up questions on that as well. So according to Health Canada's website, the federal government gave this company over $3.5 million. Is this correct?
I've seen that, and also an additional tranche of funds as well. So I think that's sort of a low estimate of what we've invested collectively.
Okay, Dr. Summers, did Mark Tyndall advocate for policies like decriminalization and safe supply in his former role within the government? Yes or no?
Yes, he did.
How is this not financial conflict of interest?
You're asking me.
Point of order, Chair. Point
Yes.
of order. Just wondering what is the relevance, because we're just starting out on the study on pharmaceutical sovereignty, and the line of questioning hasn't really been even close to the intent of the study.
I guess when we're done all my questions, you'll get it very clear. So. We're ready to go again? Dr. Summers, it is also my understanding that Perry Kendall served as the public health officer in the provincial BC government until 2018. Is this correct?
It's either 2017 or 2018, yes.
After leaving the government, Perry Kendall co-founded a company called Fair Price Pharma, which distributed injectable heroin. Is this correct?
Point of order, Chair. It's the study we're focused on, and to this point, I have not heard a relevant question to the study, the intent of the study.
Okay.
I'll answer. Yes, Dr. Kendall co-founded a company that was positioned to distribute heroin, diacetylmorphine.
Okay. Is it fair to say that both former government officials advocated for policies like decriminalization and safe supply in their former roles? Yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Can you confirm that Apotex is involved in the production of the opioid apohydromorphone? And have you had any contracts for apohydromorphone with the federal government in the last decade?
I can't confirm on the contract with the federal government, but be happy to provide that information to you.
If you could table that for the committee, that would be great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Watson, as I'm sure you're aware, my province of British Columbia has seen enormous damage to human health because of the opioid addiction.
Point of order, Chair.
You've asked us to trust you and include you in the Buy Canada policy.
Sorry, Ms. Kozan. We have a point of order.
So once again, members of the committee
What's
are
the standing
asking
order?
questions that are completely irrelevant to the issue at hand on pharmaceutical
We're
sovereignty.
just starting.
I would ask you to ask members to please make their questions relevant to the study that we are here to discuss.
I think everyone around here would agree that the manufacturing of opioids is part of pharmaceutical sovereignty. So I will continue. So you've asked us, Mr. Watson, to trust you and include you in the Buy Canada policy. But it's widely agreed upon that this crisis began with the oversupply of prescription opioids dating back to the 1990s. It has obviously cost many, many lives and tragedy. Will Apotex take responsibility and agree to a settlement with my province of BC to provide compensation for these harms?
Point of order.
I can.
Mr. Watson.
Sorry, I'm just point of ordering here. Yeah. Again, I'm struggling to see the relevance of the line of questioning here. I think the member may have even referred to lawsuits. It will be, I would request the chair to ask members to, stay on topic, and we're doing a study here that's relevant, and to ask questions relevant to the study. Thank you.
I can imagine why members around this table might get upset by this line of questioning, because it is a very upsetting subject. And in order to understand whether we can trust the companies and the representatives that want us to buy Canadian, we need to find out whether they're going to, they are trustworthy. So one of the things I'm asking about is the class action that was brought by my province of BC that you've been opposing in court for 7 years now, even all the way to the BC Supreme Court. So I guess my question is, you want Canadians to support your efforts in domestic drug making here today. You want us to trust you, and Canadians obviously would like to trust you, but you won't take accountability for these past failings. Can you speak to this?
Provide an answer to that and provide some context to that. I'm the president of the Canadian Generic Pharmaceutical Association, representing all companies,
Sorry, Mr. Keon, but
including
I did
Apotex.
ask Mr. Watson this question,
But
and I just
I do
wanted to know
represent
whether he could
Apotex and
answer that.
all generic companies.
Are you representing Mr. Watson? I'm sorry, I didn't realize that. I'm sure you'll have questions I was just going to ask Mr. Watson, because he is the one who spoke to us about.
I was just going to provide some context.
But the question was, just
Yeah,
as chair's
I'm sorry.
prerogative, the question was for Mr. Watson.
Thank
If
you.
Mr. Watson decides to hand it over to you, then that's the way it'll work.
Okay, so I'm not in position to talk about part of your question. I will tell you that we do recognize the tragic circumstances that these products have caused Canadians, but also as a generic company and part of a generic association. Just as a reminder, we do not promote generic products to physicians, and we don't sell products to physicians or promote products to patients. We sell our products to pharmacists and through a wholesale chain. And I will defer to Jim.
Wait, I will follow up with another question. So we know that in the United States, Apotex agreed under the National Multi-State Opioid Settlement to a compensation package of $72 million. So I want to understand why your company, Apotex, is willing to compensate Americans, but why won't you end this legal battle in Canada here and compensate British Columbians? It's a really important question, I'm sure, for everybody who's watching online and in this room today.
Once again, we recognize the importance of this. We are working productively as we have, and I'm not in a position, nor will I be commenting on any ongoing matters.
Further to that, I understand that it's a difficult subject, but you've been working on this for 7 years. And in order for Canadians to trust your company, trust you, we need to understand why they aren't being compensated for the destruction of these drugs. In British Columbia, where I represent, and throughout Canada.
Once again, it's an ongoing matter.
Okay. Well, my final question on this is, as CEO of Apotex, do you take any responsibility for the Canadians who have lost their lives and have been ruined by the opioid addiction?
As the CEO of Apotex, we take the importance and the maintenance and the impacts of these drugs extremely seriously. But once again, Apotex, like other generic companies, we sell our products to pharmacies. We do not promote our products. We fulfill existing demand in the marketplace, but we do take this topic extremely seriously.
I'm glad to hear that, because I know that you did have a settlement with Quebec, so I'm wondering why this company cannot settle with BC, and it's been 7 years. Thank you.
Dr. Summers, this question is still for you, Mr. Watson, but Dr. Summers made this claim, I suppose, that in Canada, and that it might be different in other countries, drug manufacturers don't have to disclose the amount of opioids or other potentially addictive drugs that are given to any particular provider or in any particular situation. Is that your understanding of the regulations? Like if a safe supply provider is asking for a bunch of your meds, do you take an interest in that? Does it have to be reported anywhere?
I'm not in a position to talk about a safe provider, but I can tell you once again, on the generic side of the business, we would ship to either pharmacies or to wholesalers. And if it was a wholesaler, we would have to track the amount. So we would be able to track the units sold to a unit pharmacy. The products, we're not involved in any way of the promotion of the products.
Gotcha.
Or
But do you have, so you do, I guess, track the amounts? Do you have to report the amounts to any sort of government agency?
I'm not. I'm not aware of reporting.
Okay, thank you. And then would you say in general that as a Canadian manufacturer, that you take an interest in how your drugs are used? So if you became aware, so basically, what's interesting here is we have Dr. Summers saying there is not good evidence for using hydromorphone in safe supply and not good evidence for using hydromorphone in general as a treatment for opioid use disorder. Is that of interest to your company? Like if providers are using your drugs in a way for which there's not good evidence, is there any way that your company feeds that back to either the government or yourself or what?
I think once again, we're not in a position to have a relationship with the providers. So we do not have a relationship with prescribers, with providers. So are we interested in terms of the general category of pain management and the fact that we participate in that to ensure that there's a safe supply of product in the marketplace? Yes. So do we have an awareness of the product? Yes. But do we have a kind of frontline, ongoing knowledge of emerging information on the product? We might not have that as other parts of the industry might be exposed to that information.
I see. Would you be interested in taking an interest in that? I'm asking you on, in good faith, with parliamentary privilege, could your company, as part of a pharmaceutical sovereignty strategy, take an interest in making sure these drugs are not misused in Canada?
Of course.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Summers, I was excited that you came to speak to us today. You said a number of very interesting things. The first thing I'll ask you is, did I have that right? Did I get your comments correct when I put them to Mr. Watson, that Canada is a bit peculiar and that the reporting requirements for opioid manufacturers are different than in other jurisdictions, to your knowledge?
Thank you. The key point I made was not related to volumes of drugs and that tracking, but rather the fact that providing funding, direct funding to universities, to clinicians, to researchers is disclosed only on a voluntary basis. And so a fraction of the money that is allocated by pharmaceutical companies in Canada for those purposes.
I'm sorry if I misrepresented your comments then, and I'll just put those back to Mr. Watson. So does Apotex give money to universities for research in the way that Dr. Summers is describing, and is that not tracked or declared?
Once again, we're a generic pharmaceutical company. We don't fund research. Whether we have any relationships related to a generic portfolio, I'm not aware of that, but we are not, not that I'm aware.
Thank you. Is that time? Dr. Summers, I read in the news about you being ordered to destroy your research data by the BC government. Is that true? And is that even legal for them to ask you that?
It's an extraordinary step, and yes, that was correct. We had some over 20 years of research data collected over pharmaceutical trials, randomized trials, other studies involving addiction drug treatment court, a whole variety of interventions designed with collaborators around the world. 1 week after the BC government learned that we had those data and were mobilizing to evaluate their current drug policies, we received a letter ordering us to destroy everything and effectively undermining our ability to do that work that had already been funded and approved.
Okay, thank you very much.
Could I shoehorn a clarification in? I wanted to address that my understanding, I had to think about this term sovereignty before appearing here today. My understanding is that the committee's interest is both in the meaning of the term sovereignty as it relates to internal autonomy and agency, as well as security of freedom from external actors and threats, and that meaning of sovereignty. And from my perspective, knowing that Canada is...
If you want to, sorry about that, we do have time limitations here.
Dr. Summers, I'm still terribly alarmed by this story of you being ordered to destroy data by the BC government. Who ordered you to destroy the data, and why do you imagine that they ordered you to destroy your data?
The order came precisely 1 week after I delivered a briefing to provincial deputy ministers. I was told directly by one of the deputy ministers in that meeting afterwards that my remarks had angered him and some of his colleagues because I implied that the provincial government was not optimally handling the so-called addiction and homelessness file. And I didn't speak in a way that was I was surprised by his remarks, but I could understand in hindsight why he might have reached that conclusion. I thought after our years of working together, he wouldn't be so easily offended. But that was the explanation.
So, to my understanding, you're a full professor at a Canadian university. You did this research study for 20 years. You gathered the data. You published the data as randomized control trials. This seems like an incredible departure from normal scientific practice to have published data become destroyed. Do you have any comment on that?
Well, there's no question. It's an extraordinarily heavy-handed tactic by a government. It definitely caught me by surprise, and it amounts to significant overreach. The research in question included randomized trials of data collected with individuals' consent, pharmaceutical comparisons.
Knowing that you benefit from parliamentary privilege, can you say the name of the person who ordered you to destroy this data?
So Mark
Point of
Sieben
order,
is the
Chair.
deputy.
This might surprise you. I'm very interested in this testimony, but this, again, has nothing to do with pharmaceutical sovereignty. So could the member please at least make a pretend effort
Point
to
of order,
link
Chair.
his questions to pharmaceutical sovereignty?
More Canadians have died from opioid overdose in the last few years than died in the entirety of World War II. I think this goes directly to our sovereignty.
Let's do a study on that then.
This is about pharmaceuticals and it's about sovereignty. I don't know how it could be more clearly in the wheelhouse of the
I
study.
know the chair is not going to put this committee in order, but just at least pretend.
Are you able to say the name of the person who, you benefiting from parliamentary privilege, could you please say the name of the person who ordered you to destroy the data?
Yes, the letter was signed by an executive director named Lee Greiner, Leigh, and her supervisor who called me was Deputy Mark Sieben. I think these matters actually are directly related to sovereignty in the sense of us Canadians being able to exercise due control over the ways that pharmaceuticals are dispensed and knowledge about their effectiveness. On the one hand, that's internal. And secondly, the points I raised about financial disclosures or the absence of a need to disclose funding that's provided to clinicians, universities, and others is a distorting influence that to me signifies an external threat to Canada's sovereignty.
Yeah, may I say that I absolutely agree with you that if multinational pharmaceutical companies are using big bags of cash to determine British Columbia's anti-scientific policies on this file, then that absolutely speaks to our sovereignty. So thank you for your bravery in speaking with us about it now. You said something interesting about you don't know. You don't believe there's evidence for the pharma first strategy that has been employed nationally. And I just wanted to ask, do you include non-opioid pharmaceuticals like gabapentin for alcohol use disorder or buprenorphine like Sublocade for opioid use disorder, alcohol and opioid in that assessment, or are you speaking mainly of opioids?
I was speaking predominantly of opioids and also stimulants, major classes of drugs, and in relation.
We're really pressed for time, so I just want to say, when you have this story of a violation of your academic freedom and open scientific inquiry and destruction of data, do you think that this problem of government officials maybe not heeding the best scientific evidence available is part of what has caused an entire national obsession with this idea of safe supply for the last 10 years?
Yes.
It's incredible. So what
part of the confidence of my answer is that prior to the past decade, there was a much more well-rounded base of evidence in the informing direction in the field of addiction, informing policies in the field of addiction. And I'm old enough, my career is long enough that I've lived through more decades of openness and more purposeful forward innovation in Canada than the last decade represents. It's been slightly surreal.
Okay, and Dr. Summers, is when you give that short answer, yes, about what you see nationally, what have you observed from the federal government in terms of maybe not heeding the best scientific evidence?
Very briefly.
Belated steps back. So a belated step not to renew the safe supply pilot programs last year, a belated step not to renew the decriminalization so-called experiment in BC, but no statements regarding what we're going to be doing instead.